Hi everybody, my name is Jeff Strauss. This video is on managerial leverage, a concept about how to make the most of your time and get the biggest bang for your buck, as it were, against the activities that you do at work for maximum output. This video is a fairly shorter one compared to my other ones, which you can find on my website, jeffstrauss.net. because this was actually a written Substack that I wrote. This was a written short form essay, and I'm just taking all of those essays from Substack and I'm making them videos. I find that the engagement is a little bit higher with videos. They're a little bit more entertaining than reading. All of the content is exactly the same. It's just presented in a different format. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this short video on the concept of managerial leverage. What is managerial leverage? In his seminal High Output Management, the late Andy Grove defines leverage as the measure of output generated by a given managerial activity. And he provides the following formula for calculating it. Managerial output equals the output of the organization equals L1 times A1 plus L2 times A2 plus L3 times A3, etc., where L is the leverage of the activity and A is the activity itself. As a manager, your job is to maximize the output of your team and those in your sphere of influence. And the most effective way to do that is to prioritize high leverage activities. So to effectively prioritize high leverage activities over low leverage activities, the first step is knowing how to identify which activities are which. Now, according to Grove, high leverage activities are achieved when many people are affected by one manager, a person's activity or behavior over a long period of time is affected by a manager's brief, well-focused set of words or actions, and a large group's work is affected by an individual supplying a unique key piece of knowledge or information. Examples of high leverage activities include one-to-ones, coaching and development, projects that align with organizational objectives, and meetings with clear, actionable outcomes and decisions. High leverage activities are force multipliers. The input provided, for example, from a well-structured team meeting, a one-on-one, or even knowledge sharing, results in more output than the direct input provides. Or as Andy Grove puts it, an activity with high leverage will generate a high level of output. Think about high leverage activities like the ripples created when you drop a pebble into water. The activity is the pebble, and the further the ripples go, the more leverage the activity has. Once you've determined what your high leverage work is, you can further amplify your output by moving it to your high energy times of the day. We'll talk more about that in a few moments. So if there are high leverage activities, it stands to reason that there are low leverage activities too. Low leverage activities are best described as activities where the input and output are one-to-one. Low leverage activities are achieved when working in isolation, when work has low business value, when you're ineffectively delegating, and when you're ineffectively managing time. Examples of low leverage activities include working to solve a problem on your own because you fail to delegate to your team, focusing on a project that isn't aligned with the broader objectives of the organization, or attending meetings that include redundant representation. For example, other managers or members on your team that can knowledge transfer to a number of individuals after the fact, or those meetings have no agenda to help you determine whether you're required to attend. I think we've all experienced both of those kinds of meetings. If you, as a manager or a leader, find yourself doing low leverage work, your first step is to determine if you're the one who should be doing it. More than likely, it should be delegated to someone else on your team. Now, finally, at the far end of the spectrum are negative leverage activities. Negative leverage activities are achieved when decisions are delayed or never made, when friction is introduced into the decision-making process, and when abdicating or when no follow-through is committed after delegation. Examples of examples of negative leverage activities include being unprepared for meetings, meetings without actionable follow-up items or clear decisions, or one of my favorites, meetings to schedule other meetings, or failing to follow up on tasks you've delegated to your team. If you find yourself in negative leverage territory, the best thing you can do is identify which of your behaviors are contributing to those negative leverage activities and stop them, or extricate yourself from the situation entirely as quickly as you can. You can, however, and this is where some development and coaching comes in, you can use a high leverage tactic and provide coaching, development, or feedback to those you observe in negative or low leverage territory. If you're interested in how to give good coaching and feedback, you can check out my presentation on giving effective feedback, available on my website, jeffstrauss.net, in the bootcamp section. Now, once you know what a high, low, or negative leverage task looks like, the next step is to determine how you prioritize those activities. Although, if you see negative leverage tasks in your priorities, you may want to recalibrate. Time management is a high leverage activity, and the results derived from high leverage activities are largely correlated with performance and success in the organization. You can determine how much of your time you're devoting to your high and low leverage activities by conducting a time audit. A time audit isn't easy. It takes dedication and diligence, but it can be a very worthwhile exercise. At a very basic level, a time audit is tracking the start and duration of an activity. You can create a spreadsheet with a heading for the day and a few columns for the time, task, and leverage, like this. Once you have a data set for how you're spending your time, you can start to prioritize your high leverage activities for when you're most engaged at work. As you become accustomed to thinking about activities as high, low, or negative leverage, you'll be able to recognize them almost by instinct and prioritize them. As I mentioned earlier, my most energized time of day is in the morning. So I put all of my high leverage activities in the morning after I conducted my own time audit, and I moved my lower leverage activities towards a time where I'm not as energized. It may be the opposite for you. You may be most energized in the afternoon and take a little bit of time to get the mind going in the morning. That's totally fine too. The idea behind a time audit is to determine what activities are high and low leverage, and then place them at the moments of the day where you can maximize your impact. So let's bring this back to some level of practicality for a minute. One example of a low leverage activity is checking and responding to emails right away. It requires context switching, it can be time consuming, and email doesn't necessarily require a rapid response. Some more effective tools for that are Slack or Teams. Though I still do like to say that those are not necessarily instant respond, they're more instant message. So I'm a morning person, and I moved reviewing my email to later in the day after I focused my most energized time on my high leverage tasks, which typically include my one-to-ones, my team syncs, leadership meetings, or project check-ins, all scheduled for the morning and early afternoon. And then I've moved my lower leverage tasks like checking and responding to email towards the time where I'm a little bit less energized and I can't devote my full mental power to the higher leverage activities. You know, leverage is a tremendously powerful concept that's often overlooked in the milieu of daily activities. If you're able to prioritize your activities effectively and coach those you lead to do the same, you'll see results in improved performance and outcomes. Thank you so much for watching this video on managerial leverage and how to make the most of your time. You can find other videos in my Leadership Bootcamp series on jeffstrauss.net. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Strauss on Leadership. I really hope you enjoyed this. If you did enjoy this, please feel free to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it around on your social media. It really helps. It really makes me enthusiastic and motivates me to create more content. I love making content like this because it reinforces my own knowledge and I help share knowledge for others, particularly new managers or those individuals who have been managers or leaders for a long time, but have been missing sort of the fundamental science behind leadership and are more focusing on the art of leadership. There is the art and science of leadership, and I tend to try to focus a little bit more on the science because the art can come so naturally to so many people, but the science really helps shore up that art. So thank you so much for visiting and checking out this video. Really appreciate your time.